Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. So we're diving straight into a massive problem pretty much all of us are facing right now, AI tool overwhelm. In Module 4 of the CIS C012N course, we meet Ryan, and honestly, Ryan has reached his breaking point. He's literally spending more time trying to figure out which AI tool to even open than it would take him to just sit down and do the work himself. We've all been there, right? Well, let's fix that. So how exactly do we rescue Ryan and, ourselves from this serious tool fatigue? His colleague Maggie hits the nail on the head by pointing out a fundamental flaw in how we even think about this stuff. We tend to talk about AI as if it's just one giant all-knowing machine, but it's not. These are highly specialized tools. Some of them write, some draw, some transcribe. So instead of just randomly opening 15 tabs and crossing our fingers, we need to stop, take a breath, and ask the core question for this entire module: which AI tool should I use in the first place? Now, getting to the right answer requires a massive mindset shift. Instead of endlessly hunting for the absolute best AI like Ryan was doing, Maggie flips the script. Asking what the best AI is actually a pretty useless question. A much, much better question is simply this: what do I need the AI to help me accomplish? You absolutely have to start with the task itself. Don't grab some shiny new AI tool and then go wandering around looking for a problem to solve with it. Figure out the specific job you need done first, and then go find the tool with the exact capabilities to match that job. To prove this, Maggie challenges Ryan to a quick, rapid-fire game, and it perfectly illustrates the point. Okay, task. You need to draft an email reminding employees about a Friday deadline. The tool, a general chatbot or writing assistant. Next task, create a quick illustration for a presentation. The tool for that, an image generation or design app. What if you have a recorded interview that needs a transcript? Boom, you jump straight to a dedicated transcription tool. Got some messy project notes that need organizing? You're looking at a productivity tool or a general assistant. Now, it sounds entirely obvious when we just say it out loud like this, but consciously matching the tool type to your specific task is your absolute first step in cutting through all that digital noise. But here's where things get a little tricky. What happens when 2 or 3 different tools can technically do the exact same task? Ryan and Maggie imagined asking 2 different AI tools to create a simple 5-item checklist for a community tech workshop. Crucially here, they instructed the AI not to invent any information that wasn't provided. So Tool A gives exactly 5 items in a neat little table. Perfect. Tool B, on the other hand, goes completely rogue. It gives 12 items, it invents a random budget, and makes up a venue out of thin air, and it actually claims to have booked a caterer. No way, right? I mean, sure, it looks highly productive and super impressive at a glance, but it completely failed the actual assignment. A polished, beautifully formatted answer is absolutely not a better answer if it completely ignores your instructions. So to make sure you're actually comparing these tools fairly, you have to use a sort of scientific method, AI addition. If you want to test whether tool A is genuinely better than tool B, you can't give one a brilliant, detailed prompt and the other a terrible, vague one. You have to use the craft framework to ensure that the context, request, audience, format, and tone are all identical. Literally giving them the exact same task with totally consistent instructions is the one and only way to establish a true baseline for a fair comparison. Okay, so once you've used Craft to input your perfectly identical instructions, how do you actually judge the stuff the AI spits back out at you? Well, that brings us to our next framework: CLEAR. Correct, logical, enough, appropriate, and reliable. Think of it like this. While Craft is for building the instruction, CLEAR is for evaluating the output. Mastering this specific vocabulary is what transforms you from just a passive AI user into an active critical AI manager. Instead of just saying, "Oh, I kind of like tool A better," the CLEAR framework gives you the exact language to explain why. Maybe tool A was more reliable because it actually followed the format, while tool B wasn't correct because, well, it hallucinated a bunch of facts. Let's actually put this into a real-world workplace scenario. Imagine you're turning messy meeting notes into a concrete action list. When the original notes don't specify who actually owns a specific task, the first tool simply writes, "To be confirmed." That is perfect. The second tool, however, just decides to randomly assign an owner, even though the notes never mentioned a single name. It crossed a massive line there. It filled in missing information instead of flagging it. Just imagine the absolute fallout if you use that second tool, sending out an official action list where an algorithm literally hallucinated an owner, assigning a massive project to someone who never even agreed to it. This is exactly why evaluating for reliability matters infinitely more than just how fast the tool is or how sleek its interface looks. Now, beyond just how well they follow prompts, there's a whole landscape of other factors you've got to consider when you're comparing tools. We're talking about ease of use, special features like being able to upload documents or use speech to text, software integrations, accessibility, cost, and of course, privacy. And remember, the landscape of AI changes so incredibly fast. A feature that's super unique today might literally be the standard in 6 months. The whole interface will probably look completely different by next week. Because of this rapid change, the most valuable, permanent skill you can possibly develop isn't memorizing where the buttons are on one specific brand's website. It's knowing how to evaluate any tool's true capabilities against these core factors. Actually, let's talk about one of those factors specifically for a second: cost. You might just assume that because a tool requires a hefty monthly subscription, it must automatically be the undisputed champion for every single task. But Maggie makes it crystal clear for the CIS C012N course. No paid AI subscription is required. Paying doesn't automatically equal better. Very often, the absolute simplest free tool available out there is perfectly capable of doing exactly what you need it to do. Now, during their chat, Ryan throws Maggie a bit of a trick question. He wants to know what specific tool he should use to find out if company policy allows him to upload customer records into a public chatbot. So, what AI tool do you think can answer this for him? The answer is neither. AI absolutely cannot make that decision for you. Maggie rightly points out that this is fundamentally a policy and privacy question. For stuff like this, you have to consult your organizational guidelines or talk to a responsible human being, not an algorithm. And that little trick question leads us perfectly into the golden, ultimate workplace protection rule of the entire course. When in doubt, leave it out. Look, two tools might perform the exact same task beautifully, but they might have vastly different privacy practices under the hood. If you are handling business data, student records, medical information, or really anything remotely confidential, do not, and I mean do not, paste it into a public AI tool just because it might make your Tuesday afternoon a little easier. Always follow your organization's policies. So to synthesize everything we've covered today, whenever you're facing a task, you really only have 3 possibilities. Option 1. Use this specific AI tool because it's the exact right match for the job. Option 2. Use a different AI tool because the first one lacks the specific features or the privacy standards you really need. Or option 3, and I really want to emphasize this one, do not use AI for this task at all. The goal of AI readiness is definitely not to force AI into every single second of your workday. Choosing not to use AI is a totally valid and honestly often necessary sign of true digital literacy. Sometimes your own human judgment is simply the superior tool for the job. Ultimately, everything we've discussed today forms this continuous, highly practical loop. First, you ask the right question using CRAFT. Then, you review the output. You refine it if it's acting like our rogue tool and hallucinating fake caterers. And finally, you verify the result using CLEAR. By this point, these shouldn't just feel like separate random acronyms floating around. They actually combine into one unified workflow that guides exactly what you do once you've actually selected your tool. So we return right back to where we started. The real cure for having way too many tools isn't learning every single one of them inside and out. It's having a reliable, repeatable system to decide which one you actually need in that moment. Always start with what you need to accomplish, not the shiny new interface you just saw scrolling on social media. And most importantly, just like Maggie says, keep yourself in the loop. The next time you sit down to work, don't just ask what the AI can do for you. Take a second and ask what you are actually trying to achieve and whether you even need an algorithm to do it. Who is really driving your workflow? I'll leave you to think on that one. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you in the next one.